So I'm going to be talking about electric cars today, and I'd like to address some of the maybe myths, misunderstandings, and questions people might have about what it's like to actually own and drive an electric car. I'm with Electric Vehicle Society, which is a not-for-profit, Canada-wide organization with chapters all across Canada, and we're here with the Windsor Essex chapter. And we're just EV owners, entirely volunteer-based, that like to come out and tell people what it's like to actually have an electric car and live with an electric car. This is me a little over 11 years ago when I was still in my 30s, amazingly. And that was when I bought my first electric car. So this yeah. This is a Nissan Leaf, and I bought it in April 2013. And at that time, I did not know anybody with an electric car. I had never seen an electric car apart from the one that I bought. I'm pretty sure I was one of the first in Windsor, Essex to own an electric car, and I thought I might be crazy to buy one because it was a very big leap of faith. But I like kind of living on the edge. I like technology, so I thought, you know what, I'll give it a try and see what it's like. And once I actually got an electric car, I was like, wow, I really enjoy this car. This is the best, most enjoyable car I've ever driven. So maybe you know, I should start telling other people what it's like to have an electric car. So I actually formed an EV association in Windsor and started to connect with other people that were also kind of, you know, early adopters of electric cars. Now I'm a father, husband, I have 2 kids, and we have 2 electric cars in our house. So we've made the switch to go all electric. And I volunteer with the EV Society. So I know we don't have too many people in this room right now, but who here owns a car of any kind? And who here owns a gas car? Okay, so I'm gonna pick on you. So what kind of car do you drive? A Ford Explorer. Okay, and have you ever thought about an electric car? Okay, so you haven't thought about it, but if someone was to tell you had to switch your Ford Explorer to an electric car, what would be your concern?
The way the batteries, when they're done with them, where they more our cold, when I know we don't have a lot of cold here as much as we once did, but even in the cold, the fact that I travel.
Okay, great. Thank you for participating. Sorry to put you on the spot. So those are very good questions. They're questions we hear a lot. So it's like, you know, are electric cars, people talk about them being green, are they really green? Because, you know, they've got these batteries, they need to be disposed of at some point. We've got a lot of cold weather in Canada. You know, can they handle the cold weather? So I'm going to talk about some of those and some other myths as well, or other questions people have, and some myths. So like I said, we've got 2 electric cars in our family now. When I got my Leaf, we had a minivan, a regular gas minivan, and my wife and I actually discussed it a couple of years ago and said, you know, can we get rid of our gas car and just be pure electric in our family with 2 kids, and we go on long drives sometimes. And we decided, yes, we can do that. So we made the switch to go to 2 full electric cars, and have not regretted it for a moment. We actually just did a trip to Washington, D.C. this summer in our electric car, and it was a wonderful trip. So here are some of the myths and misconceptions I'd like to talk about, the ones that you brought up as questions, but also, if you guys are on social media, anyone here use social media? I try and avoid it as much as possible, but I know a lot of people do. You see a lot of memes, and you know, memes are there to, you know, get people engaged and make people laugh and make people angry and that type of thing. But these are ones that I've seen. So there's one kind of an environmental one that I've seen a lot of people say, oh, look at what it's like to mine battery material, and the picture that always comes up is this one, but that's a picture of a copper mine. It's not even a lithium mine, like they say. So that's a lot of some misinformation there. People think that electric cars are always catching on fire, that the batteries catch on fire. That's a common kind of misconception. People think electric cars are only for rich people. They're really, really expensive, so I'd like to talk about that. There's always some questions about can they work in the winter, and another one is that the range isn't very good. They can't go very far, so I'd like to address some of that. So let's start with the first myth, which is that EVs are expensive. Because I hear that one a lot. It's like people say, oh, they're only for rich people. I definitely don't consider myself a rich person. And both of our electric cars were less than the average price of a new car in Canada. So as of the latest information I could find, a new car in Canada right now costs over $67,000, which seems crazy. I can't imagine, what it's like to have that kind of, loan. But so I was just looking at, well, what electric cars are in the market right now that are less than the average price of a gas car in Canada? So there's quite a few. There's the Chevy Equinox there. It's a relatively new electric car. That one starts at around $50,000. The new version of the car that I own, the Niro EV up there, that starts at $44,000 basically. There's the Volkswagen, it's $46,000. Even the Tesla Model 3 is $54,000. So these are all cars that are under the cost of an average new gas car in Canada right now. And on the used market, this is just like Auto Trader, you can find lots of electric cars in the like $20,000 range that are perfectly good, capable electric cars as well. So they don't have to be expensive cars. They can be affordable. The next myth I want to address is that charging is hard to find. And the first thing I like to tell people is when you switch to an electric car, the best thing you can possibly do is charge at home, if you have that ability. I know not everybody has a house, but if you do have the ability to plug in at home, it's the most convenient thing in the world. It's way more convenient than having a gas car. And you don't have to find a gas station. Every morning it's like ferries come to your house at night and fill up your car while you're sleeping. It's amazing, right? So you wake up every morning and you've got a full tank of electricity and you're ready to go. Super convenient. So most of the time you don't have to think about refilling your car because it just gets charged up. Now, if you do have to go on a long trip, now you have to think about where do you charge. Well, this is just a map of some of the charging stations available in Ontario. This is not comprehensive, and what you can see is there's a lot of dots on the map. So my wife and I would take our kids to a cottage in the summer, which is close to North Bay, up here somewhere, and there's more than enough charging stations for us to charge a few times at fast chargers on the way up. We generally stop for about 20 minutes, let the kids take a washing break, get some food, and then we charge up and keep going. It's not inconvenient. And it definitely, the convenience of charging at home every day makes up by far for the slight inconvenience of having to stop a little extra time to charge while we're taking a long trip. And then finally, I have a little app on my phone, and I put a trip planner in for driving from North Bay down to Orlando, Florida, to see can I make it in my car. And it said, yeah, you can make it. You just need to stop at those charging stations on the way. So you can actually go on quite long trips in an EV today. So the next myth I want to address is the myth about them being bad in the winter. In a lot of aspects, EVs are actually better to drive in the winter than a gas car. And the reasons for that are, one is you can preheat them in your garage. There's no fumes, there's no tailpipe, there's no fumes. So if you happen to park your car in a garage, which it feels like in Windsor, Essex, most people don't use their garages for cars, but I do. So with the garage door closed, you can preheat your car, there's no fumes, you don't have to worry about that. They also warm up really fast. If they don't have an engine they wait for to warm up, they actually generate the heat from the battery. So once you turn the heat on, you're getting heat almost immediately, so you're not waiting like 10 minutes for an engine to warm up. They always start. You never have to worry about a gas engine, like is it too cold, is the oil all condensed or whatever. So they always start. And they actually drive quite well. They've got low center of gravity. They hold the road quite well. So if you've got good tires, I like to put winter tires on in the winter, and then they actually can drive quite well. And they've got instant response. When you adjust the pedal, you get an instant feedback because it's much faster than a gas car would be in responding. There is one downside to driving EV in the winter, which is you get less range. So as long as your range, you've got some extra range, you know, our car has about 400-kilometer range. Driving around the city of Windsor is never a problem, even in the winter. We don't even get close to using up that much. But that's just the one thing you have to keep in mind. Gas cars are also a lot less efficient in the winter as well, so it's kind of similar in that way. Myth number 5 is about battery fires. I had to bring this one up because I see this one a lot as well. There's this myth that, you know, you don't want to park your electric car in the garage because it might catch on fire. Or, like, why would I buy a car that's going to catch on fire? But if you look at the statistics, if you look at the data that's out there on car fires, both in the US and Canada, for every 100,000 vehicle sales in the US, the number of fires, it's actually the highest number of fires is in a hybrid, second is gas, and third is full electric. And I don't know why the hybrids are higher. I have no idea what the reason is, probably because there's hybrids. But actually, electric car fires are a lot less common than gas car fires. You know, if you ever think, a lot of people have probably seen a car on fire at some point in their life, guaranteed it was a gas car, right? Electric cars actually don't catch on fire very often. When they do, they make the news, so you hear about it. But it's actually a lot less common than in a gas car. And the other thing is the newer batteries are a lot safer. There's new technology coming out in some of the newer batteries, newer car batteries, that makes it even safer than the ones before, which were already pretty safe, but they're getting even better. And then the next myth here is that batteries don't last long. So I've seen people comment about, well, you know, you're going to have to throw your car away after 50,000 kilometers, or you have to buy a new $20,000 battery because your battery's going to die. But actually, all the data that's coming in is showing that batteries last a long time. So there's a really big Canadian company in this space called Geotab that collects a bunch of data on vehicle telematics, both gas and electric. They don't just promote electric cars, they do a lot of fleet stuff. And their data is telling them that electric car batteries are degrading at about 1.8% per year. So that means the amount of capacity that the battery can hold goes down that much every year. So if you own your car 5 years or 10 years, expect that the range may drop a little bit, but the battery's not going to die. The car will still be fully, usable. It may not have quite as much range as you started with. It's just like, imagine your phone, the charge maybe doesn't keep up after a few years. EVs are similar, but it's a much longer time span because they're much bigger batteries and they're better designed. So yeah, EV batteries last a long time, and the manufacturers believe that as well because they give you a longer warranty on the battery than any other part of the car. So the batteries, all the big manufacturers have at least 160,000 kilometer and 8-year warranty on their batteries. So even if there was an issue with the battery, generally it's going to be replaced under warranty. And I believe this is my last minute here. There's concern about EVs being bad for the environment. This one comes from the fact that EVs take more energy to produce. So I think it was something around like 20% more energy to make an electric car with a battery than there is to make a gas car. But the thing to keep in mind is that battery lasts the whole life of the car. So once you own the car and you start driving it, you are no longer making emissions, you're putting emissions into the environment that you would be like with a gas car. So very quickly, that electric car becomes better for the environment than the gas car because you're just not putting those emissions out. And you think about everything that gets involved in bringing gas to a gas car. You know, the oil that has to get taken out of the ground, the refining, the shipping, the trucking, all of that is putting out emissions into the environment every single time that you refill your car. With an electric car, you're getting, you know, you're refilling it right from the grid. And here in Ontario, our grid is really quite clean. We've got a lot of renewable energy, we've got nuclear energy, we've got a very low emitting grid. So when you fill your car with electricity, it's really, the environmental impact is really low. The other thing I found interesting when I was doing some research is I found this data on a bunch of European countries and the average carbon intensity of new car vehicles. And there was one outlier that went from the top and went all the way to the bottom. It's like now way better than every other country. And that's Norway. And the reason for that is Norway has adopted electric cars faster than anybody else in the world. And they are now at over 80% of new car sales in Norway are fully electric. So they are they're really the leaders in this space, and you can see it in the environmental impact of vehicles in Norway. All right, so that's kind of the end of my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions anyone might have, but just a few other kind of things to point out. EVs are, I didn't really mention this, but one of the main reasons to get an electric car is because they're actually really fun to drive. Like, everyone who has an electric car is like, you know, why would I go back to a gas car? It accelerates better, it's quieter, it's more responsive. It's like, if you love to drive, then you would want to get an electric car because it's fun to drive. Unless, and I've heard this comment, seriously, some people like the noise of the gas car. It's like, if you like the sound of an engine, then don't get an electric car, that's fine. But everything else about an electric car is more fun than a gas car. It's better for your local health because it doesn't have those emissions. It's cheaper to operate, it's cheaper to fuel. It's very, very convenient to charge at home, like I mentioned. Less maintenance. There's less maintenance in an electric car. There's way fewer parts in an electric car than a gas car. And if you look globally, electric cars are where everything is going. Things have slowed down in Canada in recent years, but globally it's like still to the top. So they continue to come because people are realizing the benefits.